Lycopene. I love the lycopene. That was in your TED Talk as well. I had heard that study years ago, and it was so powerful to me because I thought, well, everyone should have at least half a cup of, tomato sauce every day. I mean, it's not a tomato. You're talking hundreds of tomatoes, cooked down, maintain all of their structural benefits from the lycopene. In other words, you don't degrade the actual lycopene. In fact, the more you cook it, if I understand correctly, the more the lycopene's released from tomatoes. So tell us about lycopene and the studies surrounding lycopene, because that's food as medicine as clear as day.
Yeah. Well, look, so I'm a researcher. I do cancer research. I do wound healing research. So I have the tools to be able to actually take a look at how things work and how they're influenced by food, as well as drugs. What are the things that actually lead to the benefit that we actually want in our body? That's how it's important to understand how food as medicine research is actually conducted. I teach an online course, by the way, called the Eat to Beat Disease course that actually reveals exactly how food as medicine research is actually conducted. Because I think it's important to understand, how do you get this information anyway? Well, here's the study that you were just referring to. It was a study that linked together the insights from a lot of research. The clinical study, what researchers of tomatoes have found that there's a carotenoid. It's a natural substance found in tomatoes. One of them is called lycopene. And lycopene from a tomato that you pick off the vine and just eat the fresh garden salad, it's got great vitamin C. It's got lots of fluid, hydration. It's even got some dietary fiber and other goodies in there that activate our body's health defenses. But the lycopene is really interesting because you get good lycopene off the vine. But when you eat it, the body absorbs maybe 20%, 20 to 30% of it. It's in a chemical structure that your body can recognize, but not all of it gets absorbed. However, when you heat up that lycopene, you change naturally that chemical structure into a shape, because natural chemicals all have shapes that actually your body loves to absorb. So you can go from 20% of absorption to 80% absorption and get the more benefit out of the lycopene that you're eating per tomato. Now, when you cook tomatoes, nobody cooks one tomato. You cook a bunch of tomatoes together into tomato sauce. So cooked tomatoes gives you a lot more lycopene and a lot more lycopene in the form, because of the heat, that your body loves to absorb. One little other practical tip. Lycopene, to a scientist, when we look at the chemistry of lycopene, is fat soluble, meaning it likes to dissolve in oil. So what's the best way to heat up tomatoes? A little bit of extra virgin olive oil. That's the best way to heat tomatoes till you get the lycopene in the right position. But guess what? The olive oil also has polyphenols that are good for your health defenses. One of them is called hydroxytyrosine. I always tell people, don't worry about memorizing the complicated chemical terms I'm telling you. All you need to remember is extra virgin olive oil and tomatoes, put them together, heat them up. How much do you need to have? Food doses becomes important as well. Well, so that jumps into the clinical study that you're discussing. So there is an amazing research study that's been going on for almost 30 years now. It's called the Health Professional Follow-Up Study. About 30,000 people, mostly men, who've been studied over decades to see how they eat and how they live their lives affects whether they develop diseases or not. And a big surprise that was found in this 30,000 person study was that men who ate 2 to 3 cups of cooked tomatoes, i.e. tomato sauce, each week, and that the amount was a half a cup only. You could eat more is better, but all you needed was half a cup, all right, had a 29% lower risk, almost 30% lower risk of developing prostate cancer. Now, why could that be? Tomatoes lower the risk of prostate cancer. Well, it turns out lycopene does some amazing things. Lycopene cuts off the blood supply that would feed a prostate cancer. Cancers also need a blood supply to grow. And there's many of these natural substances in food as medicine, that can starve cancer by cutting off the blood supply. That's what I talk about in my book, Eat to Beat Disease, but also I talk about it in my TED Talk. And we're doing even more work now that I'm teaching in my course about the latest foods that can actually improve your blood vessel health. It's a really cool concept. And by the way, olive oil can also have the same similar beneficial effect. Olive oil, tomatoes, now you're getting a double whammy of goodness. So the dose is important because I always wondered, all right, so tomatoes are good. How much do I need to eat? Well, only half a cup of cooked tomatoes is a really great thing. By the way, the
reasonable.
study shows that even if you actually use canned tomatoes, it's still good. You still get that lycopene. Now, let me tell you one more thing about tomatoes that's new, because I wrote about this in my second book, Eat to Beat Your Diet, which is really about metabolism. And this is another thing that can help you lower the risk of cancer and other chronic diseases, including inflammatory diseases, and also lower the severity of inflammatory diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. And that is, tomatoes can also lower body fat, harmful visceral body fat, by improving your metabolism. How does it do this? Well, it turns out this, Mother Nature is super smart. And what she did is Mother Nature said, well, I'm going to make lycopene and these other natural food chemicals to perform lots of job functions. So if you can starve cancer, let's also make it fight body fat to improve metabolism. So how does it do this? Well, think about it. I just told you lycopene loves to dissolve in oil and fat. So when you eat a tomato and you have lycopene in it, the first thing it does is, goes down you chew it up and it goes down your gut. Whether it's tomato sauce or a fresh garden tomato, tumbles down to your stomach and it gets into your intestines and lycopene gets absorbed into your bloodstream. You know where it goes? The lycopene goes after it's in your bloodstream. It makes a beeline like a homing missile into your body fat. All right. And what does lycopene do to your body fat? Guess what it does? It starts to trigger your body fat to burn itself down. And so, and specifically your visceral fat. Now, there's another study that was studied in Portugal. So a group at the University of Porto in Portugal studied young women with normal body types. So they weren't looking for super obese people or super skinny people, ordinary people, students, young college, women in college and also in grad school. And they enrolled them in this clinical study to look at the amount of body fat they had. Body fat, like inflammation, you need some of it. It's really healthy, important for you. It's just that a lot of it can be harmful.
Right.
And so they wanted to study what was the effect of tomato and lycopene. So here's the thing, this amazing study. They gave half of these only one ripe tomato to eat an hour before lunch every day. That's it. No special diet, no special exercise, no trainer, no gym membership. That's it. What's the power of one tomato in your body fat? And they found that if they did this for 1 month, a single tomato before lunch for an hour, that over the course of a month, the women would lose 2 pounds only on the basis of the tomato with no extra exercise, just normal daily activities. And the lycopene actually acted on their visceral fat, which is the fat that's found inside the tube of your body. It's the harmful stuff that wraps around your organs that can trigger inflammation. Too much fat causes inflammation in your body, and their inflammatory markers were also lower, okay, which is really good for inflammatory diseases like arthritis. Right. And it was just one tomato. And so this is the power we can, by the way, tomatoes also when you're eating it, because look, I like to cook. I'm I told you,
you're a foodie.
I'm a foodie and I love to cook.
Yeah.
I have to say, one of the things that we need to do better in medical training is we need to teach doctors how to cook, because if you can't walk the walk, you can't talk the talk.